Hi, this is Patty with Sleepy Glen Farm. Well, today we're in the kitchen. It's a gloomy day outside. Our highs are supposed to be like in the upper 40s. So winter is definitely here in Kentucky. We're supposed to be in the upper 20s for our overnight lows. So it's a great day to get out and get my little KitchenAid mixer out that my daughter got me for Christmas a few years ago. And I do use it quite often. So, but I wanted to show you how I make your basic white bread. And I've tweaked my recipe just a little bit. The description is down below with all the measurements that I'm going to use, but I'll let you know also as I'm putting everything together how I'm doing it. So I'm just going to use this very simple blending blade at first because I want to get my milk and my sugar and my yeast and my salt all blended together. So right here, I have a half a cup of milk, just regular old milk. You can use 2% whole milk, whatever kind of milk you got. And I've got a half a cup to make a cup of hot water. I mean hot water, okay? Because by the time I put this into my bowl here, my bowl is stainless steel. It's going to take on the temperature of the inside of the house. So I need my water warm enough to get my yeast to rise. So I put hot water in here. Okay, so I'm just going to add that. I've got my 2 teaspoons of yeast, and I keep my yeast in the freezer in mason jars just to prolong their life. I don't need to have it sit inside of the bowl here to see if it's going to foam, because I know it's going to, because I keep my yeast real fresh. So I'm going to add my yeast in there. I have 1 1/4 teaspoons of pink Himalayan salt. If you've only got iodized salt, that's fine. Whatever salt you want to use is great. If you like your bread more salty, add more salt, but it's not going to matter how much salt you add. It's not going to hurt your mixture. So I'll add that in. The recipe calls for 2 tablespoons of sugar. I do 3 tablespoons. This sugar is organic and it doesn't have a real sweet flavor, so I'm going to add 3 tablespoons. That's what I've been doing to my mixture, and it still comes out fine. My bread is not sweet, but I want to give my yeast enough sugar so that it keeps growing. And finally, I've got a half a stick of butter, which is 4 tablespoons. It has to be melted, so make sure your butter is melted. Now, I'm just going to turn my mixer on. I just want to blend it all up. All right, now I have my yeast, my salt, my sugar, my butter, my hot milk, and my hot water. Sorry, my milk and my hot water all blended up in here. And I don't know if you can see this, but it's not foamy, but I'm okay with that. Now here's what I like to do. I'm gonna put just some of my flour inside of here. I'm not gonna put all of it in there, but I wanna get enough in there where it just becomes like a wet slurry. That's why I'm using this paddle here. Now, the recipe calls for 360 grams, and I measure mine by grams. I don't use a cup and clear the top off. I use a scale, and I'll put a link below for the scale that I get off of Amazon, and I make no money off of this, so you can get the scale that you want, but just to give you an idea of what I use, I measured out 360 grams. Now, that's what I was using. But I found that as my bread was going through the different cycles, that I was having to add more and more and more. So I'm actually up to 420 grams. It's probably because my area is humid. Probably today we're at 100% humidity because it's wet outside. But I know I need 420 grams. Now I'm using King Arthur's unbleached white flour, and I've also got their whole wheat flour. So it's not 100% whole wheat. I just like to add some whole wheat flour to my bread. And I have 70 grams of the whole wheat in my total of 420 grams, okay? You do what you want to do. It works with or without. So I haven't gone over 70 grams because I know the more wheat that you put in, the more dense your bread's going to be. And we kind of like a light, fluffy bread. So let me show you what's going to happen now. I'm just going to turn this on and I'm going to add my flour in there and we're just going to make a slurry, okay? Now I mix this for maybe 30 seconds, maybe, and you can see that it's got some elasticity to it, but it's still really very tacky. So we're not ready yet, but I'm gonna take this paddle off and I'm gonna put my other paddle on. So let me get this cleaned up real fast. Okay, I've got my dough hook in now, and I've got this slurry. It's kind of tacky, but it's definitely not bread yet. So I've also got this little pastry cleaner, I guess you call it. I got it from work a few years ago. And I'm just gonna push all of this down. These are real handy to have. I don't know who this company is, the International Culinary Schools Art Institute in Las Vegas, I guess. Okay, this is where the art of bread making comes in. Don't let it scare you. Don't let it intimidate you, because this is the funnest part of making bread. So I'm gonna turn this on and you're gonna see how the bread still sticks to the side of the bowl. Our goal is to get that bread to come up onto the dough hook and move around and not stick to the sides of the bowl anymore, okay? So let me show you how it goes. And as the dough hook is moving around, it's pulling your dough up and it's bringing it back down. So it's a cycle. So when I add a little bit of flour in here, you're gonna think, oh yay, it's not sticking to the side of the bowl anymore. But when the dough at the top of the hook gets down, it hasn't got that flour yet. It's gonna stick to the side of the bowl. So our goal is to get all of the dough onto the hook and just a little bit of the dough down on the bottom that's not sticking on the bottom, okay? So follow me on this. Okay, see it sticking? Okay, believe it or not, everything that I recorded about bringing your bread together didn't even record. So this is another loaf of bread, but it's the exact same recipe. So you don't want to hurry through this. If you want to make a great loaf of bread, keep watching minute by minute, second by second, because this is going to show you how it all comes together. So I'm going to set my mixer on 2 and I'm going to slowly start adding my flour. Now remember, we want the ball to come up and we want it to not stick to the bottom anymore. So that's going to take a little bit of time, because I'm not just going to throw flour in and wait and see what happens. I'm going to slowly add it so that I don't overdo it. Okay, see, my dough is sticking to the sides again. So that means I don't have enough flour, so I'm going to add a little bit more. As long as I don't lose a finger. Now we're going to see what happens with that. Okay, it's starting to unstick. Remember, that dough at the top is going to come down. Okay, it's not sticking so much, but wait a minute. Now it's sticking a lot. So that was that dough from the top that came down. Okay, so let's do a little bit more. See what happens with this much flour. Okay, see the extra ball on the side? That's a good sign. Okay, it's not sticking. But give it a second. We want that dough from the top to come down. I can see it sticking back here. And it's starting to stick more. But not as much. It's not as high up on the bowl as it was before. Now it's on the bottom, so let's add more flour. Okay, it's not sticking. So let's give that dough at the top time to come down again. I can see where it's still sticking on the bottom. I don't know if you can see that, but there it goes. It's sticking on the sides again, so we need more flour. Okay, now I can see it's just sticking on the bottom underneath the dough. But I don't want that either. I don't want any of the dough sticking to the bottom of the bowl. Nope, now it's sticking to the sides again. So we gotta add more flour. And I'm only adding like a pinchful. Okay, there's dough over here on the side. It'll probably pick it up. I can still see where it's sticking on the bottom. So I'm going to add a little bit more flour. Oh, it just started sticking again. I thought we were almost there. I was getting kind of excited, but we're sticking at the bottom again. So a little bit more flour. This is where you can't be in a hurry. Let the dough do what it needs to do. It'll talk to you. Okay, I can see it sticking at the bottom a little bit more. Not as bad. We need just a pinch of flour. I'm probably going to need another pinch. I can see where it's still sticking on the bottom, but now it's not sticking out to the side. So that's a good sign. We're almost there. Okay, now I'm going to add just a little pinch of flour. Okay. Okay, it's still sticking to the bottom. I'm going to add a little bit more. If when you're trying this and you can't seem to get it from sticking from the bottom, just keep adding a little bit of flour. It could take you 5 minutes to get there. I've sometimes had it take me 15 minutes to get there because I don't want to overflour my dough. Once you've overfloured it, it's hard to get it back to the right consistency by adding water. So just take your time with this. Okay, it's still sticking to the bottom, sticking to the sides a little bit. I'm going to add a little bit of flour. Now remember, once I get it from not sticking to the bowl anymore, that's when I set my timer for 10 minutes of kneading. Okay, the dough just came down. You heard it kind of drag a little bit. but it's still kind of sticking to the sides. I want my sides to be really clean looking, and they're not. They're still got some dough on it, so just add a little bit more flour. Because when we're all done with this, the sides of my bowl should be nice and clean. Okay, it's still sticking to the sides. I can see it every once in a while. I'll see a little bit of stick there, so we just add a little bit more flour. And you don't have to add it on the right side. If you're left-handed, add it on the left side. That doesn't matter. I see just a little area about this big sticking to the bottom. I want to get rid of that, so I'm going to add just another pinch of dough, or a pinch of flour. Now I'm going to wait for the dough at the top to come down to the bottom to see if there's any more sticking going on. And I can still see where it's sticking a little bit. Okay. Now, this is for demonstration purposes. I want you to see how the dough is really acting inside the bowl. Now, I can still see a little bit of sticking going on. And I could leave it like this and just start doing the kneading, but nope, look, back here it's really sticking. So I need more flour again. So let's get it going. Okay, now the dough is kind of spread out around the bowl. And I'm just checking the sides to see if there's any sticking going on. I can see where it kind of grabs just a little bit. There it is. So we're going to add a little bit more flour. Okay, I'm going to slow it down again to see how the dough is acting. Okay, I can see here, see where it's sticking right here? So I'm going to scrape the sides. It might be sticking just because there's dough here on the side, So let's just push all that down. This might be some tips and tricks, so if you want to zoom through this, go right ahead. Okay. Now let's see what happens. I think that was my problem. It was just sticking to the dough that was on the side. So everything looks really good. Now I want to feel my dough. My dough is not sticking to me. Maybe just a smidgy bit. I could probably just add a little bit more flour here, like that. And that makes it all so soft, like a baby's butt. Really soft. Okay. All right, let's get this going for 10 minutes and I'll be back. Okay, so my bread is done. It's been kneading for 10 minutes. That's all it takes. You can knead it longer. I wouldn't knead it any shorter, but it's a real nice soft dough. So let me get out my bowl. I'm gonna put some oil in my bowl and I'm gonna transfer this to the bowl. Okay, now I have my, my loaf pan. I put a little bit of sunflower oil in here and I'm just gonna smear it around. I don't need a whole lot. I probably put too much in again. Okay, now I'm going to punch my dough down one time. And then I'm going to shape it into a log and put it inside of my pan. Okay, I'm going to use this as my guide to measure how wide I want to go. And then I can just spread it out from there. Now this is just going to be a plain white loaf, but if you want to add some cinnamon in here, or some garlic, or any kind of flavoring you want, now's another good time to do it. I'm just going to roll it up. I could have put some flour down on this too, which would have been fine. Pinch together the sides, your seams. Pinch this together. Okay, now I have my loaf in my pan. I'm going to cover it again with my plastic wrap. I'm going to preheat my oven to 350 and I'm going to let this sit for about an hour. Depending on your location, you want this to rise about an inch above your the top of your pan. Okay, so it could take a half an hour, it could take an hour. It just depends on how hot and humid your location is. So I'm just going to go set this over on the stove while I preheat my oven. Okay, well, our bread has risen. We had dinner and I gotta get this thing in the oven. It's at least an inch and a half over the top, so let's just get it in. I'm gonna cook this at 350 for 30 to 35 minutes. Don't believe what that says back there. My oven doesn't heat right, so I have a thermometer in here and it says it's exactly 350 degrees. So I'm gonna get it in there, set my timer for 30 minutes. And I'll be right back with you. Okay, the bread is done. Let's get it out of the oven. Now to make sure that the bread is done, you want to tap it on the top. It sounds pretty hollow. That was easier. There we have a very beautiful loaf of bread.